Atlantean Mermails is back and more expensive than ever. So if you're on a budget, move along because I don't think there is a budget version. We'll find out soon. What we do know is that many main deck and extra deck UR cards that may or may not be reprinted in this new selection pack are scattered across different packs. But if you've been swimming around with Ice Barriers, Sharks, Ice Shades, and Atlanteans, you're mostly safe. I'm something of a water connoisseur myself. We just have to dive into the new selection pack to pick up the new Mermail support. And this new support turns Atlantean Mermails into one of the strongest water decks we've ever had. So what is the goal of this deck? Compared to pre-support, Atlantean Mermails hasn't really changed that much. They're just way better at doing it now. More consistency, more ways to play through disruptions, a higher power ceiling meaning you're ending on a stronger board than before. In the past, we ripped 2 cards with Moon Glacia and summoned synchros like Jameer with Lancia, which could bring out General Ryo and rip even more cards whenever the opponent tried to activate monster effects. With the new support, we're still hand ripping 2 cards, but now we have access to a much wider pool of options, making the extra deck more flexible and toolboxy. We'll have rank 4 and rank 7 XZs, level 6 to level 10 synchros like Dragite, Jameer, Lancia, and water links from 2 to 4. The trade-off for this increase in power and flexibility is that we're going to be waterlocked early in our combo by Abyssrine. This restriction is not really a problem since we have so many powerful water monsters these days. So what does the end board look like? Before you get to your end board, you will rip 2 cards from your opponent's hand with Moon Glacia. The typical end board will have Neptibus, the Royal Mermail. It's a link 3 that points to 3 monster zones. Any monsters in these zones will be immune to targeting effects. We'll also summon 3 extra deck monsters to these zones. It will be some combination of 1 or 2 synchros, Dragite, Jameer, Lancia, Chinging, 1 XZ, Dweller, Kragan, or Abyss Gaios, or 1 Link monster, Abyss Lacia, and if you're feeling very spicy, you may also have Barrier Statue instead. You'll also have Abyssrine in the graveyard that has a quick effect that can both disrupt your opponent and let you draw. In the back row, you may have Virtue Stream to pop any 2 cards and banish it from the graveyard to turn your opponent monster into water. So this is a lot more disruptions than pre-support. While building up your board, you'll have a chance to look at your opponent's hand with Deep Sea Minstrel, giving you hand knowledge. Then you can customize your board depending on what deck they are playing. If they're playing a graveyard heavy deck, you summon Dweller and cancel the graveyard. If they're playing Fiendsmith or Tenpai, you summon Kragan to turn all their monsters into water. If they have Evenly, you can summon Dragite to negate a spell or trap card. If they have Super Poly, Minstrel can rip it out of their hand and normally it would return by the end phase. But by sending Prima Donna to the graveyard, you can shuffle that card right back into their deck. There are so many more ways to be prepared for whatever your opponent is playing. The downside is you're not going to have space to fit all these extra deck monsters to have an answer for every single thing. There's 2 common ways to play this deck. You can see these major differences in the 2 formats, TCG and OCG. In TCG, almost everyone is running Coelacanth, and in OCG, everyone is running Prima Donna Turbo Barrier Statue. It's hard to tell which will be more successful in Masterduel, but we are closer to OCG with our ban list. But there's good reasons for why Coelacanth was run in the first place. We do a lot of searching with this deck. Coelacanth gives you a line against Droll, which you would otherwise hard lose to. There are also combo lines involving Abyssrine and Abyss Pike, which are not so great without Coelacanth, which lowers the consistency of the deck without Coelacanth. There's also the fact that Max C is still legal in OCG. These factors all contribute to why Atlantean Mermails didn't do as well in Asia as it did in the West. Masterduel is more aligned with OCG, but I think the arrogance of Americans are going to lead them to try to find a way to run Coelacanth in Masterduel anyway. I'm on the fence, so I'll be playing both and see what happens. So let's look at some combos to give you a taste of what these decks can do. We'll start with Coelacanth decks, using only Atlantean Prince. Prince Dump Shadow adds Dragoon. Shadow summons Abyss Pike. Abyss Pike discards the Dragoons, adds Abyssrine. Dragoons add Moon Glacia. Abyssrine tributes the Prince, add the Ice Jade Bronze to the hand. Prince will then summon the Dragoon from the graveyard. Then we'll Exi summon into Bahamut Shark. Bahamut Shark will detach the Dragoon, special summon LaVirtue. LaVirtue will add Virtue Stream. Dragoon will add Diva. Lavertu will detach material from Bahamut, add Dragoon. The ygUNZs will link into an enemy, summon Shadow from the graveyard. Now that we have 5 water in the graveyard, we can hand rip with Mooling Glacia. Shadow will discard the Dragoon. Turning monsters into level 7, Dragoon will add Minstrel. Mooling and Shadow will ygZ into Trite. Abyss Trite will special summon the Dragoon from the graveyard, and then we'll go into Pasidra. Ron will discard the Minstrel, and then Synchro into Lancia. Then we'll link into our Neptibus Royal, discarding the Diva so we can special summon the Diva, Minstrel, and Shadow. Minstrel will mill 3 cards, placing one of them on top of the deck, while Royal on Chainlink 2 adds Abyss Sting Triana to the hand. Minstrel and Shadow will go into White Aura Porpoise, special summon the Abyss Pike from the graveyard, and then go into Dragite with the Diva. Dragoon and Abyss Pike will go into Dweller. Then we'll set the Virtue Stream and end our turn. You can activate the Dweller on your turn, so you can get the search off of Dragoon without worrying about Call by the Grave. Then you can activate Dweller again on your opponent's turn during the draw phase, before they have a chance to get anything into the graveyard. You're going to sacrifice Dweller anyway with Virtue Stream. You flip over Virtue Stream, pop Dweller, and pop 2 of your opponent's cards. The detached Dragoon will add a Prince to the hand. Sometime during your opponent's turn, you can banish the Abyss Rhine, discard the Atlantean Prince to draw a card. Atlantean Prince will then trigger, special summoning Pasidra from the graveyard. Pasidra will dump either Infantry or Dragoon to add another Prince to your hand, then it can return one of their cards back to the hand. Abyss Teus discarding Dragoons is still the best possible combo we have. It's always been that way. Your opponent will likely use a disruption on Teus, so that means they're not using it on Prince. So Teus will add Abyss Rhine, Dragoons will add Diva, normal summon the Diva, special summon Prince. You don't have to search Diva, you can normal summon Prince instead. Diva is a stronger combo, but it is weaker to Imperm and Veiler. But if your opponent does have Imperm or Veiler, they probably will use it on Teus. If your opponent isn't very saucy, they likely left their trigger off, so when the game pauses on the summon of Teus, you can just assume that they have Imperm or Veiler. If you do go for Atlantean Prince instead of Diva, instead of searching for Pasidra, you will search for Diva instead. This will mean that at the end of your combo, you won't have Pasidra in the graveyard, you will have to search for Infantry to add it to your hand, and Abyss Rhine will discard the Infantry. Prince will then dump Shadow. Add Dragoons to the hand. Shadow will then trigger, special summoning the Abyss Pike. Abyss Pike will discard the Dragoons, add Minstrel. Dragoon will then add a Atlantean Prince. Minstrel will discard the Prince, get rid of the Nibiru. Prince will then summon Dragoon. Dragoon and Abyss Pike will summon Bahamut Shark. Bahamut Shark will detach the Dragoon, summon Lavertu. Lavertu adds Virtue Stream, and Dragoon adds Mooling Glacia. You can summon Mooling Glacia now or activate Lavertu Dragon. Virtue Dragon will add the Dragoon, will special summon the Mooling Glacia, hand rip 2 cards. Then link into Anemone. Anemone will special summon Shadow. Shadow will discard that Dragoon, turning all monsters into level 7. Dragoon will then add Pasidra. Then we ygZ into Abyss Trite, special summon a level 3 tuner, go into Jameer, rank up into Pasidra Abyss. In order to activate Pasidra Abyss's graveyard floating effect, it is mandatory that you have 3 level 3 or lower aqua, fish, or sea serpent monsters to summon, and that you have space for all 3 of them on the field. So we're going to make space by removing one of those monsters with Abyss Rhine to add Ice Shade Ron, and then link into Neptibus Royal, special summon our Diva, Minstrel, and Shadow. Minstrel will then mill 3 cards. We're going to add Infantry back into the deck. We may need that later for Pasidra. Neptibus Royal will add Abyss Sting Triana to the hand. Shadow and Minstrel will make White Aura Porpoise, special summon the Abyss Pike. Then into Dragite, using Diva. Abyss Sting Triana will special summon the Dragoon. Then you go into Dweller. Special summon the Ron, discarding Pasidra. Special summon the token, and then go into Lancia. It would be better to summon Lancia into a zone that Royal points to while Dweller is outside of it. Using Royal to turn Lancia into a card that cannot be targeted is pretty powerful. You also want General Ryo to be summoned in a zone that Royal points to, so don't do what I did, switch Dweller and Lancia's position. Like I said in the previous combo, you can detach the Dragoon on your turn with Dweller, triggering it to add the Atlantean Prince to your hand. On the opponent's turn during the draw phase, you trigger Dweller again. Now the graveyard is cancelled, deactivate Royal, add Abyss Sting to your hand if you have it in the graveyard, and that's all for this combo. And it ain't a Coelacanth deck without summoning Coelacanth, so the reason why you would run Coelacanth is protection from Droll. Otherwise, you really don't need it. So in a position in which you are Drolled and you have Abyss Rhine in your hand, then you would activate the Abyss Rhine to then special summon Coelacanth from the deck. If you sent Prince to the graveyard, Prince will then special summon Abyss Rhine from the graveyard. Coelacanth will summon Greethies and Abyss Spike to then synchro into Monoceros. Monoceros will special summon the Greethies. Monoceros and Coelacanth will make Abyss Trite. Abyss Trite will special summon Abyss Pike. Then rank up into Pasidra Abyss. The two Abyss Spikes will make Dweller. Greethies and Abyss Rhine will make White Aura Porpoise to special summon Greethies. Greethies and Pasidra Abyss will link into Marincess Anemone. Pasidra Abyss will then float into Greethies, Prince, and Shadow. Greethies, Prince, and White Aura Porpoise make Lancia. Greethies gives it attack and defense boost. Marincess summons Greethies. Shadow turns all your monsters into level 7. Then link into Royal while Greethies summons Prince. Then end on Dragite with Greethies increasing its attack and defense. How many decks can end on something like this through Droll? Not very many. On the opponent's turn, now that we're not longer Drolled, you can detach that Dragoon with Dweller, cancel their graveyard. Royal will add the Abyss Sting, and since we don't have Pasidra in the graveyard, Dragoon will add the Heavy Infantry instead of Atlantean Prince. Abyss Rhine will discard the infantry, draw a card, and then let you pop one of your opponent's cards. I'll be back with some more combos, including Prima Donna and more Coelacanth combos and Barrier Statue. Good luck with your pulls, and good night.